by today because it's June 19th, Juneteenth, Freedom Day for most Black Americans. And I wanted to stop by and give you my thoughts on it because I'm sitting out in the breeze at the park near my house. And I got my pup down here. He doesn't know what to do with himself. But I wanted to stop by because I've always been one not to follow the masses ever since I've gotten out of religion. And I wanted your take on this because I wanted your take on this because I wanted to know how you felt about going with the masses. It's Freedom Day, you know, and yes, we are to congregate and get together and commemorate what that really means. And from my experience, and I'm gonna tell you, I had an experience in 19. I think my son was 4. He was born in '89, so 1990ish, somewhere in there. My son, my son was about 4, and I taught the Sunday school class, and so we went to our town's meeting for Black History Month. And I had the children there because they were asked to perform or sing a song. I'm getting bugs all over me. Sing a song to commemorate Black History Month from the choir. And as we walked in, everyone was there. Everyone was sitting down, and we was just getting ready to get started. There was food, there was food on one side of the building. Everybody was, dressed really, I guess I want to say Black history as they know it, with the colors on of the African colors, and all of that. They're very, very, boisterous and beautiful, And then I looked up front, and there was the dignitaries, which were the officials, like the legislators, the councilmen, the Suffolk County executives, office, all those officials, lawyers, things like that. And they were sitting up front. And so when we walked in, I knew them all pretty well. But when I walked in, I heard one of them say, "Don't they all look so beautiful?" And that pinged in my soul. It made me feel like we were on display and we had to prove our blackness to them. We had to perform for them. Well, needless to say, my own, I want to say, very boisterous spirit, when that rang true in my heart, I gathered up my 20 or 30 children and I said, we're never going to come back and do this because we perform for no one. We're not performance. We're not a performance. Being Black is not a performance. Being Black is what it is. It's, living a life and giving the opportunity just like everyone else. So that was one experience that exposed me to, and I never returned. I never went back to a Black history performance again, except for real later on where they had something at a Unitarian church, which was really nice, and I took my grandchildren. I think my granddaughter she was like 6 months old, but I took her. And this particular pastor was openly gay. And he made it so that he had an artist there that had us all take our hands and draw around it and then put what Black history meant to us into that hand and then put it on this piece of wood that he had carved out. And what he was doing was creating this everlasting art piece that would ever ring true. And I thought that was beautiful. I thought that was so beautiful. Teaching my grandkids at a young age Black history meant more than dressing up, more than, putting on the garb and flaunting around and walking in front of people to prove who we were. Blackness meant a lot more. That was the second time that I went back. I never went back to another event. However, I did experience, I want to say, the next one was the Juneteenth. And I went to an event with Juneteenth, and it was a art display of all the artists who recognized Juneteenth, and it was a celebration. Again, I took my grandchildren to let them see that it was a legacy building. And why am I saying all of this to you today? I'm saying this because I felt some type of way because I didn't want to go with the masses and be involved with the masses, with Juneteenth. What I felt was that it has become, like most things, very commercialized. They have vendors there, they have people speaking, but it loses its I don't want to say appeal, but it loses what it was set out to be and do. It loses that when we commercialize it. When we get to these events and we're going to show them what it means to be Black. And I guess that's the Christ consciousness in me that I've always had. It's always been there, the Christ consciousness. When Christ, as an example, and even Confucius, even Muhammad, right? They didn't go towards the masses in any view or any perspective they were into. They went the opposite direction of it. Being so that to not lean on the customs or the consciousness of being transformed, being conformed to what you see, and what's happening around you, but being transformed by the newness of your mind. You see, what we get lost in, us Black people, Black and brown, what we get lost in is the concept. We're still enslaved when we want to parade around in front of people. We're still enslaved to want to say, this is what Blackness looks like when we put on the colors, when we put on the outfits. And it's nice to do that. I'm not saying it's not nice to do that. But to parade in front of someone, to do it, and to prove that this is Blackness, is not what the Christ consciousness, not what the consciousness of Confucius, not what the consciousness of what Muhammad, not what the consciousness of even Martin Luther King or Malcolm X, anyone that's set to transform us from the mind of slavery, the mind of enslavement, came to do. What we need to do is spend some time on freeing our inner man of all this utter nonsense of proving ourselves to those who are not Black. I had someone say to me yesterday, we were talking about something unrelated to this, and it was about film. And because he creates films, and I'm planning on putting together an open mic at one of the art studios. So he said to me, later on tomorrow, I'm going to one of my friends' events, and they're having Juneteenth. So I said, why would you say your friend? I know them. And I said, yeah, but why would you even mention that they're your friend? Because that's unnecessary. You don't have to relate to me to know that, I know them as well. So I don't lead by saying, I'm going to my friend's event. I go, no, I'm going to an event. And what that tells me is that you're so insecure that you're talking to a Black person that you have to make sure you tell them that you know somebody Black. I think that's absurd. I think that's, ludicrous, because I don't go out of my way to say my friends are white. I don't. I have some white friends, but I don't lead by that conversation and say, I'm going to see my white friend. or I'm going, I have some white friends too. I don't lead the conversation with that. So why am I saying that in this context about Juneteenth and about parading around and about making what I'm saying? Make sure that you're doing it out of authenticity. Make sure that you're any of these customs or these holidays we get involved in. Make sure that we're leading and we're doing this out of authenticity in a space that we're healed from. Because a lot of people, they go to these events because of obligation, but not out of authenticity. Not out of, I am healed from being enslaved by you and I don't have to prove anything to you. I can get together with 8 people versus 800 and still be able to share in trueness and authenticity and originality that this is what Juneteenth or any holiday or any celebration or any place of freedom is about. We get caught up in all of that stuff, and then we can't understand why if someone like me doesn't want to come to the events or don't want to be involved in them. We can't understand that. Are we turning away from our own being? Are we denying our sense of self, of who we are? Probably not. I've vacillated with that, and I came to the conclusion as of today, my blackness has nothing to do with anybody else. My blackness doesn't even have to do with a holiday. I acknowledge it, I honor it, I respect it, I pay homage to it in my own way. I don't believe I have to get out at a function and walk around and give people food or, tell them what I know, what I don't know. I believe that when we get to a place that we can appreciate a holiday and just sit in it and enjoy our family, friends, close friends, just sit and say how great it is to have the freedom to do this, to be off, and recognize how our ancestors, went through all of this, went through, being killed, being enslaved, children being taken away from, being on different slave camps, being, being treated every kind of way, and that I can have the freedom to sit here today and just breathe and just feel safe. That I don't have to scurry around and plan something to put on a performance for anybody. Until we get to that place, we're still enslaved. I truly do believe that. Until we get to a place that there's peace. I never understood, when I was in all of my survival modes. I never understood Oprah, and I never understood, all the others, Wayne Dwyer, never understood him. Never I've understood Louise Hay, never understood so many more people that they didn't get around and congregate at certain things because their mindset was different. Their mindset was whole. Their mindset was cleaning up the inner man, and they were taking off the enslaved abilities, the enslaved mentalities that lurked behind in those shadows of things that we do, like going to these events, being part of them, creating them so we can get other people to understand our blackness instead of just being in our blackness, instead of being who we are, instead of teaching our children, staying home and teaching our children about what our past relatives went through and what they had to endure, what our ancestors had to endure for us to get to this point. That's the trick, is the trick of the communication is to trick us into not, I repeat, not tell our families, our children, our legacies, our grandchildren, our great-grandchildren, our great-nieces, our nephews, our cousins, our anybody about the legacy. Our trick is to be involved in all this propaganda and then involve so much that we forget to tell them what it's really about. While we're having people stand on stage, this is what our answers went through, and it's so ambiguous because you look around, people are vending, people are doing all this stuff, and they're vending and they're telling, it's so ambiguous that what are you teaching them? No, you're yelling at them. You're saying it amongst all this stuff that's going on, and it gets lost in translation, pretty much. It gets lost in translation. We're no longer telling our families, our children about Juneteenth. We're yelling across the yard about this is what we do to show our blackness. We got to do this, Several years ago, I was talking to someone in one of the groups that I'm involved in, and I said to them, why do we have to go up on Capitol Hill to their plantation and put on a performance at their plantation? They give us a couple of dollars, feed us. Why do we have to go to their plantation to entertain them when we should be celebrating together and they come to us? They give us the money and we celebrate the way we do, or don't give us any money. Just give us a safe place to be, right? To enjoy what we do and enjoy it together, and they come see us. See, all those government buildings, and I do believe this, and this is true for me, all these government buildings, these educational places, systems are all plantations. They are places that, change our mind, conform our mind to the way they want us to think, take our uniqueness, take our oneness from us. And it's up to the families, our families, us as leaders in our families, to transform that in our families, to let them know you have a safe space. Here's a safe space, that this is the truth about what this is. This is the truth about what that is. Don't just let them keep going on and believing or accepting the propaganda that's being proposed to them from the systems. But instead, we perpetuate the problem. We keep progressing it on. We have community events that keep just really washing out what the day means. When we keep doing these things, we're in effect washing out what it really means. And we could be becoming so commercialized and so conformed that we forget the message, the meaning, the deepness. We need to have sovereignty within ourselves. Sovereignty, inner peace. We need to go inside of ourselves and find those dark places where we're still serving and living enslaved. But we keep our minds on making sure that the non-black know what it is to be black. They know. And guess what? If they don't know, they can ask questions. There's Google. Why do we have to act? Why do we have to be on stage and perform for them? Why? Just sitting in this park with my pup, and he's actually calm. He's like really calm. This is amazing for me. Because he's usually running around everywhere. But just sitting in this park, feeling the breeze, feeling safe, and appreciating what my ancestors have done for me. Up until, hey Stephen, up until even now, in my family, in my mother's family, my father's family, just appreciating them. Thank you, Zeb. Thank you for being here. Hi, Simpson. Thank you for being here. Just all of those things is so very important for us, So I reflect on this Juneteenth because of that. I reflect on that just being, you don't have to celebrate a holiday like everybody else. You don't. You don't have to go into the masses. You don't have to, go to these events. You don't. You don't even have to explain to people because you're on your own journey, which has nothing to do with everybody else or anybody else. It has nothing to do with them, which is so glorious and so great. I'm excited about it, and I don't have to explain it to anyone. My journey's mine, and I really do appreciate that. Because let me tell you this, or let me say this. Even being black in a country, let's say if I was in a country didn't even recognize that, right? What would I be doing? Exactly. Celebrating it and acknowledging it here and here. And I think that's what's going to be missing if we keep on perpetuating the same parading of the blackness in front of people, the parading of what we do, And that's my thought. That's my POV. I like saying that. I love those letters. That's my point of view, my POV. I know people may not agree with it, but that's my POV. It really is, and I'm super excited about it. So, thank you for hanging in there, people, good people, and coming to talk to me on this beautiful day. Listen, if you ever need to chat with me or need a speaker or a coach, I'm your lady. DM me, check me out in the comments, or go to my YouTube channel. You see all my links. You have a question that you might want to ask me, you see all my links. I'm around. And if you can't seem to click any of those links, go to ednawhite.com. Simple and easy. Talk to you later. Bye for now.